Now, here's Ed Bernstein.
Well, I'm with a man who, if I can't be with Frank Sinatra, I could be with Bob Anderson, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And Bob has a show that's unbelievable over at the Palazzo Hotel, where he essentially created a set, and he sings, and he kind of does somewhat of a moment in time in Frank Sinatra's life. It's an incredible experience. You got to see the show. I've known you for close to 40 years.
Right.
You've been,
say it like that.
you've been, you know, just a remarkable entertainer in this town for a long, long time. And for years you've been doing Sinatra songs.
Right.
But you put together this show, which, I mean, it's beyond description. I mean, I can't even say enough about it. I mean, if you, I saw Sinatra a dozen times. Now, my kids, you know, I talk about them to my children.
Sure.
You know, who've never seen them. I'm going to take them to see your show because
great.
that's the closest anybody can ever come to experience what it was like to watch Frank Sinatra.
Well, thanks, Ed, and I really appreciate that. And but what you just said is basically the reason that's the premise for why I did this. Okay, and the whole thing. Other than the fact that all other people, all the other entertainers that are in that genre or that belong to the Great American Songbook, like Jack Jones and Andy Williams and Johnny Mathis and Mel Torme, they're gone. You know, Jack's still singing. Jones, he's singing wonderful. Tony Bennett is, as you just saw Tony with Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
But I thought, what can I do? Because, you know, my impressions and things, I became an impressionist when Merv Griffin wrote my act for me, so I didn't spend any time on recording myself, getting an artist like Bob Anderson being known as a recording artist. I became an impressionist. So then all the people that I were doing became irrelevant. They're gone. So I started thinking, well, what the heck am I going to do? So I realized that Sinatra's 100th millennium was happening, and so I said, I'm going to do a tribute to Frank Sinatra. Now, I hate to use the word tribute, but it sincerely is. It's a sincere tribute of respect to the greatest soloon singer that ever lived and probably the most famous entertainer that ever walked on earth. So I said, and then I got deeper into this thing, and I went to Hollywood. And I went out there and I looked up for, I said, how can I maybe help me look like him a little bit? And I found this Kazuhiro Tsuji, who is one of the best. He did Benjamin Buttons, you know.
Oh yeah, great movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He did all, you know, The Old Man and the Young Man. Right. Then he did Eddie Murphy's Nutty Professor, all of them sitting around the table. He did all of them. You know. He did Jim Carrey's A Grinch Who Stole Christmas. He did all this stuff, and he said, they said, Bob, he's not going to do your makeup. He said, because he only does the biggest stars in the world. And I said, well, that's a nice compliment there. So he said, but you're not going to do mine. So I said, okay. So I wrote my whole presentation. I sent it to Kazu. I got a meeting with him. Right. And so I go in there and see him, and he read everything, and we looked at me and all the stuff, and I walked, and I left, and I was going back to Palm Springs from L.A., and an hour out of town, he called me back, and he says, Bob, Kazu, he says, I will do your makeup. Frank Sinatra is my favorite, and it will be my crowning achievement. And I said, great, Kazu. So he made the makeup for me.
And we're showing it right now.
There it is.
That's with the makeup, unbelievable resemblance. Yeah.
That's, and you know, the crazy thing about it, here's what Kazu said to me times two. He said, Bob, you're not Frank Sinatra. He said, I said, I know that, buddy. We all know that. So, but when you look at it, when they show some of those, when you look directly straight at it, you get certain looks that capture him.
Expressions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to do that. If you just look straight on, it's, you know, and I know that, so you can't do that.
I mean, even your mouth, you know, it kind of looks like him.
Yeah, and you know what it is?
Look at that.
There you go.
You know, you couldn't separate that out from an original.
No, I know. Yeah. Some of it's crazy. No, when I went into the studio with Kazu the first time, when he put it on, he said to me, "Come back," he said, "and wear what you're gonna wear on stage."
Right.
He took me in a room, put the makeup on without any mirrors, and then took me in another room with makeup. This is a scene where I recreate Studio A at Capitol Records, and when he sings "World on a String," and we turn the stage into Capitol Records. It's a set. But anyway, and I walked out. The funny thing, when I put the makeup on, I can't see myself at all. I don't see myself. And the first time I walked into this room with all these mirrors, I was totally freaked out. I said, holy cow. And then he told me the reason, that is how many of the actors
respond.
Yeah, once they get that, it helps them become the character that they're trying to.
Didn't even recognize yourself. How long does it take, the whole makeup routine?
First of all, it started at 3.5 hours, and now we've got it down to under 2. Under 2 hours, because and I told him too. I said, "Kaz, I can't sit there for 3.5 hours every day, 5 days a week. I mean, I would go insane. You can't do it." But you see, Kazu is he does for the big screen. You know, he does the movies and TV and stuff. And mine is a theatrical production where now Ron Wild is putting my application on now, because Ron does more of the theater stuff. And Kazu can't leave Hollywood to move up here and do this, so Ron's doing it now. He's made a couple of adjustments to it and things, but man, he's retained it, and he's a wonderful, well, you know him.
Yeah, no, very talented.
Very talented guy.
Yeah.
And,
we have some video, so I'd like to show the audience a little bit of what the show really is about, and then we can talk about it.
Good.
Okay?
Come fly with me, let's fly away. That's why lady is a time. It's my kind of town, Chicago is. New York, I have got you under my skin. Luck be a lady tonight.
I'm telling you, I have trouble knowing the difference between, you know, what I remember from years ago and watching that. It's unbelievable. And of course, you have Vince Falcone, who was the orchestra, actually conducted and led the orchestra that played for Sinatra.
And he played, you said it exactly right. He was his pianist, and he was also his musical director, conductor, and everything.
Yeah.
And really, during Sinatra's most aggressive period of his life in the music, they toured the world together. And when Frank Sinatra passed away, before he passed away, he had retired, he gave Vince a whole bunch of charts. So it's like the music is totally authentic. As a matter of fact, when you turn around, if you were there, you would realize this. Out of the orchestra, there are about 12 musicians in my band right now that were playing for Frank Sinatra at Caesar's Palace.
Oh, cool.
And they're that good. I'm not just using them because they're a prop.
Right.
You can't get guys that good to play like that.
Right.
And Vince puts the band together, and it's just unbelievable. And so everything about the show is about authenticity. There's nothing in the show that is caricature. That's my one thing that I tried to do, is to stay away from caricature. It's nothing like a Rat Pack show. There's no mention of Sammy and Dean or Marilyn Monroe or anything like that. It is a sincere, and I hate the word to use tribute, because tribute is used so much today.
It's a recreation, isn't it?
There you go. It's a reenactment, and a recreation, a reenactment of the greatest singer of the 20th century, or any century for that matter, and the most famous guy that ever walked entertainer on the earth. And the show is broken up. Well, it's not broken up, but it's in 3. It's a live concert that covers his personal appearances. There's the set. You can see this is a big orchestra, and this is the new set. This was just taken, I guess, yesterday or something. But anyway, it's about his live appearances, the music, his television things, and his recording studios.
What is it about Frank Sinatra that makes him so endearing to so many people?
In just a short thing, he was that good. And he was really that good. The funny thing, Ed, is that through the years that you and I have been in this town for an awful long time, and we both know so many of the great stars and singers, every one of them, not one, even from Tom Jones to everybody else, to Tony Bennett, if you ask him, Tony Bennett will say, well, there's no question about it. Frank Sinatra's the greatest. He's the absolute best. Tom Jones said, yes, he's the best. You know, Tom Jones said, Frank Sinatra's it.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody calls him the chairman of the board. Now, certainly it was because he had some charisma, you know, and He's the one, the guy, he's like Elvis Presley, you know, and he'd walk in a room and actually, I think but the difference, Sinatra used to send a couple of people in the room and get over by the light switches so the lights would go up and he went in. But no, he didn't do that, I'm kidding. But the lights always, he was Frank Sinatra. It's just crazy, but Eddie was that good. Now I've been studying him, very intent. For the past 3 years, almost 3 years, I have been getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, at least 4 days a week for 2 hours each time. I put a tuxedo on. I have this big 10-foot by 8-foot screen. I watch and I sing along. I have 24 videos. I have mirrors all in the room. And I have been doing Frank Sinatra for 2 hours a day, 4 days a week for almost 3 years to get every nuance down, every one of these, every move he makes with each word to each song. And
was he consistent with that?
Oh, he was he was with his major things. I mean, when he would sing "Lady's a Tramp" or stuff like, you know, he'd always give the same things when he was talking about, you know, that's why, you know, "Lady is a Tramp," you know, all this stuff. And but he had all these things, and the music we're doing. People ask me all the time. They say, "Why'd you leave this song out?" Which is a guy recorded over 1,200 songs.
Incredible, yeah.
And it's incredible. And you could write right now, if you could write. If I said, Ed, and you don't sing for a living. If I said, Ed, go ahead and write down a list of 22 songs, your favorite Frank Sinatra song. Yeah. Whatever you wrote would work for my show.
Is that what you're doing? 22 songs?
22 different songs, and you know. But I mean, he has so many of them, and it's so wonderful. So we're just, and the orchestra is so great. Vince Falcone has the band. The music, the set. We went back, and we built a set on stage.
And we should say that this is at the Palazzo Hotel,
That's
which
right.
formerly, before they tore it down, was the Sands Hotel, where Frank Sinatra is most famous for performing at.
Right, exactly.
Right? I mean, he performed at Sahara, at Caesars, at the Riviera, at the Desert Inn, but the Sands is kind of his
that's it.
That's it. I mean, right? So it's like, literally, you're at the same, you know, longitude and latitude as where Sinatra was.
That's exactly right. In the Copa Room, famous Copa Room, where there were more live recordings made in the Copa Room than anywhere in the history of the world. There were more. And I did all my research a lot, and it's great to be there. And I kind of tie that into the show, and I tell the people, listen, I'm taking you back. I said this show is going to be a little different, and as Mr. Basie would say, we're going back to my world, baby. As Count Basie used to say. And I said, you're not used to seeing shows like nobody's going to come out hanging from chains and rolling in balls. It's going to be about the music.
Right. And you would think that there would just be people our age that would be interested, but that's not the case, is it?
That isn't. No. It's a funny thing. The intentions of my show was to give the younger generation a chance to be able to step into a time period, circa 1970, you know, and let them experience something unlike they've ever seen before. They can leave their high world of high-tech gadgetry and travel back in time. Just when the overture, if they're sitting there, and they've already told me in the opening night, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. We have the set, and as a curtain comes up and this orchestra's playing, when somebody, and it's so big, and they're saying, what is this about? Because they've never seen it. Yeah. And then for the other people who have seen it, like yourself and things, it's a chance to go back and relive it, thinking you could never see it again.
So have you tried to duplicate the Copa Room at the Sands?
Similar, but only bigger. The Copa Room was a little bit smaller on the stage. Our thing is more like that was at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles or the Waldorf in New York or the Plaza. It's a bigger supper club on stage. We removed some of the table or the theater seating and put it back like the Copa Room. We got the tables and chairs in the front with the lamps on it, and there's you get served during the show.
Well, it's like going back in time to an old Vegas show.
That is exactly what we're doing. Oh, exactly. And I want to do it here, you know, and then we want to take this show. When I wrote it, I said I want it to be perceived as a must-see show on the Vegas Strip, yet be able to go to London's West End and onto Broadway as a theatrical production. And we've already had the calls to do that are about that already.
You've been doing Sinatra songs and been a fan of his for a long, long time. When you started doing research for this show, was there anything about him that you discovered that you hadn't known that was, surprising to you?
Yeah, a little bit, and more so in his not about his personal life and all that. That's an open book, but you get the stories from Vince Falcone. He was with him for so long, and one of his close friends. But what I discovered, and I was talking to Steve Lawrence about this just the other day, the way I thought I always knew exactly how Sinatra phrased and all of this stuff here, but after I got so deep into his singing and stuff, there were things that I thought that he did, or just wasn't really aware of what he was doing to attain what he did.
Right.
And it was so now I'm doing it in my sleep. I don't even like Frank Sinatra anymore. I do it so much. I'm kidding, but I've been doing it so long now that I've got his phrasing down to like that. And if you put as much time in as I did, you'd be phrasing like that too of him. But I found out that he tells the story. He is the greatest interpreter of what the composers are trying to say, and they're trying to tell the story. He's the storyteller. The arranger, the guy writes the music. He's the composer. The arrangers like Nelson Riddle and Don Costa and Gordon Jenkins, they color the whole thing for the composer. And the singer is a storyteller, and he tells a story, and nobody tells it like him. I'll tell you what, Tony Bennett is just as good, though.
Yeah, and it still has a great voice.
Absolutely.
How about his song selection? At that time, everybody was coming to Sinatra with arrangements and songs. Hey, do my song, do this song. He was very shrewd in choosing what he did sing.
Absolutely. We laugh about this because people are asking me all the time about picking the material for the show. He did over 1,200 songs. I think 1,196 of them were great. 4 songs he jumped into doing this disco thing. Remember when he started, night and day, you are the one. Somebody talked him into that, and finally he said, "You're fired. Get out of here. I don't want to see you again." He realized that was a joke. But all of his music is, you can pick the summer wind, and you go back to summer wind. You can do, I've got you, come fly with me. It just goes on and on and on. And of course, I'm doing the ones that were the more commercially played than. But for myself, I can sit back and listen to in the wee small hours of the morning. All the beautiful saloon songs. We do a saloon segment. In the show, we recreate him. One of his TV shows, it starts to rain in the theater. We have the surround sound with the rain coming down, and he's lonely by himself, having a drink. Is in his apartment, and Vince is playing in the wee small hours, and then Sinatra sings. He takes a walk out and goes to the bar, and we recreate all this. And he's under the street light with the coat.
Yeah, what I just thinking about with Sinatra, when he would sing a song, he was almost acting the role of this song. And when he sang, one of my favorite songs is "It Was a Very Good Year," which it made incredible words. And when he would sing the song, it was kind of like a sad, looking back on my life type of song. And you could relate that he was genuinely feeling and what he was singing.
When he said, "When I was 17," he's talking about when he was 17. He started, Gordon Jenkins gave him that. That's got that song.
Do you think that resonated with Sinatra? Do you think that when he sang that kind of song, that he really thought it was his life?
Absolutely.
The My Way, the whole thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When people would write songs for him, they had him in mind. When Sammy Kahn and Jimmy Van Heusen, they wrote stuff, and Sammy Kahn especially, really wrote it for Sinatra, his life, because they knew him so well. And Sammy Kahn, but Jimmy Van Heusen was even a closer friend, because Jimmy was a boozer. Jimmy liked to party, like Sinatra did so much. And Sammy Kahn not as much, but absolutely they did that. And Frank Sinatra was, he really and people, I don't know if they know this or not, but he tried to, you know, I didn't want to talk about that, you know, that he got he was in a depressed state for quite a while there when, over Ava, you know, Gardner and things like that. But he was really a, how do you say it? He was a deep guy.
Emotional. I mean,
emotional,
he felt
exactly.
It, right?
He was a really emotional guy.
It's like the rest of us. Had his ups and his downs. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was, and people don't, I'll tell you what else I found out an awful lot about him by talking to Tony Bennett an awful lot too. People don't realize what a guy he was. He would fly people. He would send his plane. He would send a jet to the other side of the country or to another country to pick somebody up and send them to a hospital in this country because the person needed a heart transplant. And he would pay for that.
And he's known for that.
And
for
nobody
great,
would ever, and nobody knew it.
But
he wouldn't let anybody know.
But he had great loyalty to his friends.
Absolutely, he did. Boy, if you were a friend of his, that was it. And it's like Tony Bennett was just telling me the other day when I ran into him again. I haven't seen Tony in a few years, and he said, you know, we're just friends. He said, that's just the way it is. He said, Frank and I were great friends too, even though we didn't see each other all the time. We were just great friends. He said, that's how I feel about you. We're just, next time I see you, we're just friends. And he's a beautiful guy too. If you want to talk about a guy who's an encyclopedia of Sinatra, and it's Tony Bennett. He knows him inside out. And they were great friends, and he admires him, and he calls him the chairman of the board. And he calls him, you know, the governor. He says, Frank's the governor. He was just the top. He was the top.
Frank Sinatra was very close with his mother, wasn't he?
Oh,
yeah, I mean, he was devastated when she died in a plane crash.
Yeah. I was, you know what? I was sitting in Caesar's Palace when that show happened. And I was working at the top of the dunes at the time. And I was over there watching that show when he got the news that he had just seen the show. He walked off the stage and they told him that they found out that, you know, the plane, you know how it happened. They were coming from Palm Springs, and they didn't make it over that mountain there, and they hit the mountain, and his mother died. That was a tough.
Was that on his plane, or just a commercial flight?
Oh, that was his plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a real devastating thing. But you know who? Another guy who we just lost was a guy named Frankie Randall. Do you remember Frankie Randall? Frankie.
Yes.
You do remember Frankie. Frankie was Steve Wynn's entertainment director for years. But Frankie, when Jilly who was Frank Sinatra's bodyguard and best friend through his years.
And Jilly Rizzo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had a club in New York called Jilly's. You probably have been there. And they used to have a piano bar in there, and that's where he met Frankie Randall. And they used to have a chair like King Arthur's throne that would sit back there in this very small room that only sat about 80 people. And that was Sinatra's chair. And Frankie Randall would play piano, wonderful piano player and singer. And Sinatra would come in there and sing with Randall all the time. And so Frankie brought me into Atlantic City. I got to perform with Frank Sinatra on 3 different occasions. And we did a tribute to Henry Kissinger at the Waldorf. He and I did it together, which was a great thrill for me. And the show is something that it's different, Ed. It's different than anything that's in town, and it's different than anywhere. And I hope that the people get a chance to come out and see it.
Yeah, because it creates an ambiance and creates an experience. So it's more than just listening to Sinatra songs, listening to somebody who sounds and acts and, you know, has the nuances of Sinatra. It really transports you back to a different time. So if you are my age and you remember Sinatra and you miss him, you know, you're not going to want to miss this show. And if you didn't have an opportunity to see him, this is as close as you'll ever get. I mean, it's thank you for doing this kind of show.
Theatrical production.
I mean, you are doing a great thing for a lot of his audience and for audiences yet to come.
Well, it's like I said, it's from my heart. It really is. It's because out of just sheer respect for this.
So the show is let me see. You're every day, but Sunday and Monday, right?
Right. We're there Tuesday through Saturday. The show's at 8 o'clock, but Friday night we do it at 9. And we got 32 musicians of the best. Like I told you before we went on camera, half of them were with Sinatra at the end of his career. So.
Right.
So, and it's an authentic reenactment of Frank, and that's the way it is. And I hope you, I'll see you there maybe this week.
Oh, I can't wait to go.
I can't wait to meet your kids.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You may have second thoughts about that. What's your favorite Sinatra song before you go?
All My Tomorrows. Today I may not have a thing at all. You know that?
Yeah, yeah.
But-
so does that change? I mean, after from once,
That's a
yeah.
tough one to say
Yeah.
with you. What's the matter with when somebody loves you? It's no good all the way. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's so many Sinatra songs that are just so great. Every time one comes on, I say, "Oh, listen to this!" And then another one comes on, and you say, "That's my favorite." But I think All My Tomorrows, because it kind of reflects my career. We were talking earlier. Yeah. You know, I've always been a dreamer. I've always been there. I never got to that step yet, but I worked my butt off for my whole.
Yes, you have.
My
Yes.
whole career. Yeah. And you know, you got to dream in this business, and maybe this one here's will going to help me get that ladder up there, and this will be it.
Well, it's like anything else in life. Everything you do creates what you are now. Everything you have done. So there's a reason that you went through whatever you went through and struggled as much as you did. I mean, you've paid your dues, but
Yeah. Well, it's been a nice trip. I've had a nice career. It's not over now. Now maybe it's just it's
hey.
another road, buddy. Another trip I'm going down.
I look at Tony Bennett. He's older than us, right?
Yes, but thank goodness, quite a bit older. So we're all right. So no, we've got some years to go, and that's what Jack Jones told me. Jack says, "Woody, you got many years to go, and you'll be fine." And Tony Bennett told me the same thing. They said, "You got a lot of years."
Which we have about 30
He
seconds.
wants me to take it to Broadway, Tony. He says
and
he'll help me.
and you should.
He says this show belongs there, and it belongs in New York, Chicago, all over the place.
We have about 30 seconds left. But what is the audience's favorite song? New York, New York, My
Yep.
Way.
Yeah, My Way, New York, New York. Songs like that. The opening, that Ladies a Tramp, Witchcraft. At the end of the show, I do real quickly. I do a medley of songs that you wish I would have done, but I didn't do, and we do. Those fingers.
So don't miss Bob Anderson at the Palazzo Hotel. Thank you,
Ed,
Bob.
thank you, buddy. It's always great. Good to see you again.
Come on, fly with me, we'll take off in the blue. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide, starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, everything on earth to you, you learn with every lonely day.
Time can change many things, but what doesn't change is our commitment to serve you. So if you've been injured in an accident, or if you need help in your Social Security or workers' comp case, we can get you the best possible result.
Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.